because we have been offended, we find it so hard to confront the person who offended us. We find ourselves talking about the problem to other people except to the person who have offended us. Sometimes we think that's easier to do. Oh, did you know that that person hurt me because of what I did? But you're telling that to other person, not the person who offended you. Is that the right way of dealing with the problem? No. You have to go to the person who hurt you. No matter how hard it is, no matter how scary it is, we have to do it. And most of the time, it does not only happen in our workplaces, in schools, it happens in our homes, and it happens in the church. Right here in the church. Sometimes the person who offended others is the last one to know that someone is really, really angry with him or with her. And he knows this through other person. It's going around before it reaches the person. Beloved, that's not the right way to deal with a problem. We have to find courage in God for us to deal with it. And unfortunately, problems rarely goes away by just keeping quiet or by just scattering the problem around. And the longer we ignore them, the worse they become. Just for example, when you ignore a cold, a cough, and it worsens, it turns into bronchitis and you turn out to have pneumonia, and a lot of people die because they ignore just a small sickness. And if you ignore a warning sign in your dashboard that says engine check, you would end up paying thousands of dollars or maybe lose your car at all. If you ignore misunderstanding with your wife, with your husband, with your children, if you ignore that for a long time, it will result into rebellion. And you lose your loved one. Your daughter, your son. But again, on the other hand, this principle is not an excuse to hurt others just because you want to be open, just because you want to be frank. We are told to approach those who have offended us, but we are told to do so with love, with humility, and in private. That's in Matthew chapter 18. Let's read verses 26 to 31. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock. And Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves? He replied, accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. So that place was called Beersheba, because the 2 men swore an oath there. The fourth principle in building better relationship is this. Do not make assumptions about another's knowledge of a problem. Another thing that we're so good in doing sometimes. Do not make assumptions about another's knowledge of a problem. Now apparently the complaint of Abraham about the well was worded in such a way that Abraham assumed Abimelech knew the problem. And Abimelech is quick to respond, defend himself and say, I don't know. I don't know if he's speaking the truth or he's being honest or he's just lying, but he said, I don't know, I just do this today. Isn't that what happens sometimes in our relationships, friends, husband and wife, parents and children? We think that our actions, we think that the tone of our words explains everything, but it does not. And sometimes we never get problems or conflicts solved or come to a mutual understanding because the offended person assumes that the offender knows the problem. Most of the time we act as if people have sixth sense about these things. Or we assume that our subtle remarks are clear message when they are not. You know why many people don't even know that they have offended you already? And then we act hostile. We don't talk to them, we just avoid them, and then all of a sudden they will find, now what have I done? You don't know? Isn't it obvious? No, I don't. You have to say it. Speak it up. Explain it to me. What did I do? Oh, you already know. You're just ignorant. How do you know? I didn't know. Now, a lot of people are bewildered because they said, what's going on? And so, beloved, don't assume. If you have something to say, if something is bothering you, speak it up. Not with a high tone, not with a command or whatever, just speak it out. Communicate it. Get it across clearly and calmly. As the Bible says, a kind word calms the heart. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's probably in the book of Proverbs. Beloved, we need to avoid these mistakes in building. This will not help. Of all the three, it helps, but this one, do not make assumptions about another's knowledge of the problem. We must be very careful not to assume that people are aware of a problem unless we directly, unless we clearly communicate the problem and the seriousness of that problem to us. And so Abraham accepts Abimelech's answer and responds by entering a covenant of agreement through giving this cattle or these animals in verse 27. These animals were like a seal or confirmation of that agreement, much like a handshake or a signature in today's terms with the agreement, with a contract. And then to make sure that there were no misunderstandings concerning the ownership of that well, Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs. I don't know really what's the message there, but then out of this cattle, there's another 7 ewe lambs that was separated and says, Abraham said, I'm giving this to you as a sign, as a seal, that I own this well and no one can take it anymore. This belongs to me and my servants. Now, Abraham here is now the one being proactive in avoiding future conflicts. Because in the future, if Abimelech's servants would go and claim that well, they would just say, hey, go to your master. We have an agreement. You cannot take this well. Beloved, there is no spirituality without right relationships with itself. Wherever you go, you will meet people. Wherever you go, you will work with people. You will always have relationships. And our goal here is not to have a perfect relationship, but we are builders. We are building better, not bitter relationship. But better. Okay? If your relationship now with your husband or with your wife is bitter, then you can make it better by being proactive in avoiding future conflicts, by being honest with even the smallest thing in your life in the issue, by being open with the problem and being gentle, and by not assuming that the other person already knows what's going on. Because we're not God. We cannot predict. We don't see each other's minds. Sometimes we read actions. Right? We can read actions if the person is upset or if he's not happy or whatever. But we cannot tell what the other people is thinking, what the other person is thinking.